Imagine that you have apps that are what I call triad apps that combine quantum computing, AI, and big data. You guys know all those things, right? Quantum computing now has become pretty straightforward. People are talking about it. And quantum computing does basically 5 seconds what takes a supercomputer, not just a regular computer, supercomputer, 10,000 years to do. So you're looking at massively, massively fast calculations. It doesn't do everything perfect on for everything, but you're getting the gist of like where that's going in terms of speed. And big data holds obviously all the data, and AI, how much that's accelerating. You now have AI that's beating not only humans at all the board games, but also analyzes data in medicine and is actually beating doctors at analyzing disease. All those things are going to be in an app. And imagine you're going to have all the big companies having competing apps. So, Google, Apple, Oracle, Microsoft, Amazon, every one of them is going to have an engineering app and a chemistry app, and you name it. So in the end, you're going to have a little mobile device that can access this information. And what would take you months in research to do, you're going to be doing this in seconds, right? And it's not even you doing it, it's this app. And you'll be able to pay by the second, by the minute, by the hour, lease it, right? It's a pay as you go. That's going to be the technology, and that's the system and the society that we'll be in. So at that point, you have to ask, what's the value of a human, right? Why are you valuable? Why are you relevant in that society? And the only answer is that you have creativity, emotion, and intuition, which is all these things that in the end AI doesn't have. I always tell everyone that you either have the creativity to use the technology as tools, or you're going to be made obsolete in the future by that same technology. You have to understand about creativity is that you are the entity you sense and perceive yourself to be, ask the questions, but then you are not providing the answers to those questions. So you're not doing all those things. You, as the entity you sense and perceive yourself to be, are only asking the question. There's really 3 components that are answering the question. So you have one component that I call creative thought, one is reactive thought, and one is rational thought. And you literally have all 3 giving you answers. And so then you're choosing amongst those answers. And then you're choosing amongst them and then seeing which one has more validity, which one has more meaning to you, right? Then you choose and then you move forward. So what's really, really important is that you understand that creativity is a co-creation. Absolutely. When you type in a query into Google, you're in essence asking a question, right? So Google is going to give you information that it has, and it's going to be a tool. Absolutely. It's going to get better and better and better, and AI is going to get better and better and better. So the query for information is going to be much better and better and better. But the thing is, what happens in these 3 components that give you answers, they give you answers based on taking aspects of your own personal life and experience and are able to interconnect it in new ways for you. So for instance, the answers that you're getting from these 3 mind components are not something Google can do, because it's taking an experience you had in the 5th grade, and then it's taking an experience that you happen to see somewhere else, and it's taking an experience somewhere else. And all these are just information in the form of those experiences, right? So imagine this is just an information theory, right? So all your experiences, just break it down as information. Every day of your life, every hour of your life, all that is just information in that experience, okay? And so those components are able to take those experiences and aspects of that and put it into something new. And so when you ask a question, you may be coming up with answers that there's no way that Google could ever even begin, because they're taking aspects of your experiences and they're making it relevant for you. So what Google does, and what it has been fantastic for me, search, let's say search, because it might be something else in the future. It's giving you information that you don't know anything about. So that's what happens when you, as the entity you sense and perceive yourself to be, asking a question, there's information coming. It's being used with your life experiences so that it's relevant to you. And so the more you learn, and this goes to the renaissance of learning, why is it important for an engineer to learn the arts, to learn music, to learn the sciences? Because that expands the information, it expands the experience from which these components can draw from to give you insight, right? So if you're narrow, if you're like a horse, right? Blinders, and you only have this one field, you can only get information based on that one field, and it's going to be limiting. But if you have width of knowledge, you have again a renaissance of learning, as shall we say, of amongst many, many fields, right? Then the components can pull something from that field and get you interested in that. And now if you go, oh, well, I need to learn more about this aspect from this other field, then you use Google. So for instance, in my field, I had to learn a little bit of physics, a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of acoustics, a little bit of, just a little bit of things. But then when I started getting more and more into these aspects, I really needed to know a lot more about chemistry, a lot more about physics, a lot more about neuroscience. I need to know what's the knowledge out there now, right? That the information that Google has, I'm looking for that is not in my life experience. And so I'm looking at, okay, well, what do physicists think about this? And what do neuroscience think about that, right? And once I understand that, then that new information is part of my experience. So that's what Google, any search in the future does, is give you information that you do not have in your life experience. Because if you have information in your life experience and you ask questions, those components are going to be pulled together and combined, right? That's where, the innovation comes from. You might wonder, how come all of a sudden we went from technology to religion or spirituality? Because you have to really, really have at least a basis of understanding of a lot of different fields. And that was common in the Renaissance. I mean, that's the whole point of calling somebody like, a Renaissance man or woman. It's just you have these wide variety of interests, and that allows you to extrapolate information from different fields in order to get something new. Incremental innovation is created, and breakthrough innovation is discovered. Okay. Now, the scientific term for discovered, the term I use is source. Okay. So one of my ventures is oisource.com, and we have an online course that I'll talk about here in the end, that puts questions, answer statements in a system where it helps you innovate and start thinking like a breakthrough innovator. When you discover or source information, that information already existed. So again, we're going into a very deep kind of metaphysical aspect of, hey, there are components that are answering your questions, and now information already exists. So information already exists. That means it existed since the Big Bang, right? Some information could be in little bits, that breakthrough information, and some information come in absolute complete chunks. Give you the big chunk example is Nikola Tesla. Very famous example is Nikola Tesla. He's walking with a friend, and this was documented, and he stops cold and screams out, I see it. And in front of him, he sees his alternate current motor working. And he says, I see it moving, I see how it works now, I understand it. So it's working. It's given to him in complete form, okay? He didn't create that. It was given to him in complete form, right? The father of chemistry, Dmitry Mendeleev. So he had all these periodic elements, and they were all over, and he was trying to make a periodic table, and couldn't get it, fell asleep, saw it in his dream, woke up, understood it because he was fooling with it, and put it together. And ever since then, every single element fell into place, and it's going to fall into place. So he didn't create the periodic table of elements. That already existed. He discovered it or sourced it, right? So those are complete sourcing of information. And the only way you could do that is if your mind is already prepared for that information, okay? Little by little, breakthrough innovation, that's physics and math and other things. They discover something. Let's give another one. E equals MC squared, right? Einstein's. If Einstein got hit by the proverbial bus, and didn't get to the age where he got to E equals MC squared, it would take 10 more physicists 10 more years, but they would have that same formula because it exists, right? Same thing with math. So you can't create math and physics because those explain how our physical phenomena are structured, right? So they are discovered already, and Einstein only talked about it being discovered as Nikola Tesla did, and all other breakthrough innovators, because they could feel it's coming separately. I have a course called Innovative Thinking Process, the ITP. It's a 90-minute course that leads you on a path to be able to do the same process that these breakthrough innovators did, mentally, cognitively. The breakthrough innovators, the really, really top level innovators, they understand that there's a separation between them and the thoughts coming to them. So, for instance, Einstein and Tesla never said they created anything. They said, I discovered this, always. They can sense that this is information that's coming to them. Really, the best innovators can sense information coming to them, and they're able to use it, okay? And that information is coming to them only because they're asking a question. Because if you're not asking a question, you're not getting any information from the outside. you're asking questions. As an individual, as a human, the question is the most powerful metaphysical tool you have, bar none, the most powerful metaphysical tool. And I know you think, oh, question is just a request for information. It's not. Request for information is just a request for information. Every single innovation, every single breakthrough has happened because somebody said, I wonder why, or, why did this happen? So it's a question. And no educators and no neuroscientists understand what a question is. So I'm going to lay out for you a definition of what a question is so you can understand why it's the most powerful metaphysical tool that humans have. Question opens a place in your mind for answers to fit. That's why the entire education process right now is counterproductive. Because if you're memorizing things just to regurgitate on the test, it's really not interconnecting with what's going on. The natural way for you learning things has to be where you're asking a question and then being able to use those answers within something new. Talking about the cognitive aspect, one thing I do want to mention so you can understand how this works, why is it that you are asking questions and then there's other components giving answers, is because your brain is not your mind. And neuroscience once thought that your brain is your mind, then they thought the brain creates your mind, and now they have no idea what's going on because people that have strokes and a quarter of their brain is no longer functioning. It's just dark. People can still remember and function. So information is not located in the brain. They've also done studies where they've transferred RNA, it's like a form of DNA, from one rat that knew a maze to another rat that didn't know a maze, and then that rat that never knew the maze, but that had the DNA, the RNA transferred to it, now all of a sudden knew the maze. So memories can be transferred through cells, and everything is not in your brain. So you have a completely different structure going on within the brain-mind dynamic that neuroscience doesn't understand. And the mind model video that you guys can watch if you haven't watched it is basically that the brain, it's all in computer terms. So everyone's familiar with the hardware and software and computer, but imagine you didn't know that there's software, right? And you go to a computer and you see current going back and forth, and you see lights flashing, and then something on the video screen. You think, oh, this hardware is creating this image. But that's not the truth. Same thing with the brain. If you don't understand that there's a separate component of the mind, then you think, oh, this brain is creating this image. But no, the brain is a biological motherboard, and the mind is an operating system software that is running the brain and restructuring the brain. So for instance, again, in technology terms, when the hardware is no longer sufficient, you got to chuck it, right? Because the software now is too strong, right? We all know that operating system is too big. The hardware can't get it, right? And you chuck it. You're not chucking your brain. The mind is rewiring it. So there's neurological pathways that are being rewired by your mind when it's working. And the more creative you are, the more it's rewiring your mind, the more it's creating neurological pathways in order for information to go and in order for more and different information to combine in different ways, right? So you have a system of biological motherboard in the physical brain and a mind that's the cognitive operating system and software. That's restructuring. This is a very strong paradigm shift for understanding what the mind is. So the mind is in every cell. So you have cells, they have their own minds, right? You understand that when you cut your finger, your entire body knows that it needs to restructure, and your cells know what they're doing. Protein folds on its own. There is an intelligence there. There's an inherent intelligence in every cell. And if you think, well, how's that possible where there's a mind within every cell? Think about your cells. They die every 7 years in your body. You have a new body every 7 years. Your brain cells die every 12 years. So if you have a new brain every 12 years. So the cells, again, are basically conduits, like accessing information, because matter is made from a field. Like there's actually no particles. There's particle wave dualities. So Einstein said there are no particles. It's just the field. So the field has information and it's downloading into the particles. So just like your phone is able to access information from the cloud, your cells are basically able to access information from the quantum field, okay? And imagine cells being like just a short-term memory in the computer, right? So you have the RAM and the ROM, right? Cells have a RAM, right? So the brain can remember, the cell can remember certain information, but it doesn't have all the information, right? The majority of information, again, that's in the field. And so you say, but, we're thinking with the brain, we see these brain scans. Yes, because there are more cells in your brain, and they're more interconnected, and they're at a higher level than anywhere else in your body. So you basically have a transformer that is your brain. And so the majority of thought and mind that is in your brain, but it's also in your cells, right? Part of the components that you have is intuition. So intuition is something, again, that AI doesn't have. And intuition doesn't mean intuition is always right. People go, oh, listen to your intuition. It's not your personal intuition. Imagine there's a database. It's just like everyone has an app on their phone. It's not your own personal app. There's a central location that has that app, and that app is customized to you on your phone. So your intuition is customized to you, but there's one intuition. And that intuition is not like people think it's meant for your success. It can be meant for you to fail as well. Intuition is there so that humans can interact. Period. So let's take an example of that. I like to use extreme examples because when you use kind of general examples, it's not clear enough like what's going on. So an extreme example of cooperation is a wave in a stadium. Okay, nobody is getting up there and saying, okay, this section do this and this section get up. Everyone gets it. Everyone starts to wave a little bit, then another wave, then another wave, and everyone gets it. There's an intuition that goes around, and if you had 10,000 monkeys, they'd never be able to do wave. They don't get what's going on. So we're able to, as humans, have that intuition and understand what's going on in order to be able to do that wave and cooperate. On the other side, the intuition saying, these guys are attacking, we need to defend ourselves, and then all of a sudden intuition leads you into war. So you can have intuition lead you into war and lead you into mass cooperation that's uncoordinated. So intuition is there for interaction. So as long as you understand that, then you can use that as a tool. And again, the ITP, the innovative thinking process, forces you to use intuition as a tool versus just generally using intuition saying, oh, I want to do this, and go ahead and do that, right? Because that may not be the right way to go. It may be something that you need to find information on. Intuition does not give you a guarantee for success, but it makes you feel like, oh, wow, I need to do this, because emotion is surrounding it. Emotion is always the key to creativity, because it's a stimulant for your thoughts and for what you're doing. But again, emotion can also take you in the wrong direction. Emotion is not there for your benefit and for your success. Emotion is there for interaction, just like intuition is there. And so the ITP allows you to use emotion as a tool in order to innovate. Because otherwise, I always have the colloquial statement saying, either you're using emotion or emotion is using you. That's it. It's one or the other. It's a binary action. And so it could be a little bit using you or a little bit using emotion, but it's one or the other. And so the people that have learned to control their emotion, usually executives at the top levels, generals, people that are always in stressful situations that learn to control emotion, they're using their emotion as tools. The ITP teaches you that process so you don't get hoodwinked into doing something by emotion that's not going to be productive for you for innovation.